More of Parshat Vayihlach, Yaakov. Ay, terrible story. Dinah is raped. We talked about it. We talked about her no voice, not saying anything, as opposed to Rivka and Sarah and Bathsheba. I got it that time. And now the brothers, they go, Shimon and Levi, kill all the people of Shechem. And Yaakov is scared, and Yaakov is worried. And then God comes to Yaakov and he says, "Go to Beit El." That's what Yaakov is told. Go up to Beit El. You need to, and there's an important thing here, and this is from the opening verse of chapter 35. Yaakov, Kum ala Beit El, v'shev sham, v'aseh sham mizbeach le'el hanira elecha baruchacha. God says to Yaakov, go to Beit El and build an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you were fleeing your brother Esav. And this is an important statement. This is God saying to Yaakov, despite the fact that you're worried because of Shimon and Levi's behavior, despite the fact that you've returned now to the land of Israel and things look bad with Dinah being raped, despite it looks like things are falling apart, God is saying, I'm still here with you, which Yaakov might have given second questions to. But we know this is a world with free choice where people can do all sorts of terrible and nasty things. And Yaakov then says to his family, go and remove the alien gods from your house and purify yourselves and change your clothes. He's trying to say, one could say, if we're looking at it from a sort of from a different lens, we had the horror, we had the terror, these terrible things have happened. We need a fresh start. Mishaneh makom, mishaneh mazal, change your place, change your luck. Mishaneh, I don't know if it says mishaneh begadim, mishaneh mazal, change your clothing. You have to leave some of the stuff behind. We need to move forward. So change that clothing. And he says in verse 3, V'nakuma v'na'aleh Beit El, and then we'll go up to Beit El and we'll make a mizbeach there for the God who answered me biyom tsarati, at the time of my sorrow. Yaakov doesn't say, he adds these words to his family. As far as we know, God doesn't say the God who appeared to you at your time of your sorrow and your time of your worried. Vayihi imadi b'derech asher halachti, and the God who was with me on the journey, on the road that I have gone. So God's going to be with us here too. I'm a little worried. It's been a difficult time. It's been distressful, and so they go and they go up to Beit El and they make a mizbeach. And but there's on the one hand, in the immediate aftermath of that, we have things are good, where God now appears to Yaakov, and just like the Saro Shel Esav, this mysterious man, an angel earlier in the parsha called Yaakov Yisrael, God now affirms that name. He calls him Yisrael. You have gone, you have fought, you've had difficulty in your life, and you are once again Yisrael. You are once again, I'm going to affirm that name. And with it, there's a further affirmation, which is God saying to Yaakov that you are going to inherit the land of Israel. You think you've come in here, there's been destruction, you're worried there's nobody to protect you. Look what happened to your daughter. I'm telling you, in the aftermath of this trauma, of this difficulty, of this horror, that yes, these things are horrible, but I'm still with you, and this land will be yours. He says, the land which I said to Avram, to Yitzchak, I will give it to you and to your descendants, which is at the same point a little bit, we could say, sort of the aftermath of the meeting with Esav, where we have the meeting with Esav and all the tension and all the anxiety that we talked about. What's going to happen there? And is Yaakov's family going to be killed? Is Yaakov going to be killed? He survived it, and that's further proof, and now God is affirming it, that the land is going to be yours, Yaakov. Okay, we have a terrible story, of course, the death of Rachel, but let's skip ahead. In verse 22, after the death of Rachel, we have an episode that happens. This is verse 22, Vayihi, and this is in chapter 35. Vayihi b'shkon Yisrael beretz hahi, Vayihlach Ruvain vayishkav et Bilah pilegesh aviv vayishma Yisrael. And then there's a pause in the verse. Vayihi b'nei Yaakov shneim asar. Israel was in that land, and Ruvain went and he slept with his father's concubine Bilah, and Israel heard, not Yaakov, Yisrael, but obviously the same person. And then there's a pause, and it says, and the children of Yaakov were 12. And it's the middle of a verse. It's the verse 22, and in the middle of that verse, after Israel heard, there's a pause. and then it says the Bnei Yaakov was Shnei Masar. Now the rabbis here, this is one of the places where the rabbis say about certain characters in the Tanakh, anybody who says that that person sinned is a to'eh, is mistaken. They say it here, they say it about King David with the killing of Uriah and his affair with Bathsheba and many other sins. They whitewash the sins. They say they weren't as bad. And what's taught, if your kids were in day school, they're taught if they come to this pasuk, they say that Reuven switched around the beds. That Yaakov was going to go sleep with Bilhah, the maid of Rachel, after Rachel died, and Reuven took Yaakov's bed and moved it in with his mother. Now that's not what the text says. The text says that Reuven slept with Rachel, and we know from the animal world, this is a sign of dominance. This is what you do. You want to say it's the sign that you are in charge. You win the elk battle up here in Estes Park, Colorado, or the battle between whatever animal it is, to be now the alpha in the clan, and the females in the clan are yours. And that is what Reuven seems to appear to be doing at this point in time. He thinks his father, who doesn't do anything at the moment after their sister, his daughter is raped, is no longer the alpha, is no longer in charge of the clan, and he goes and he sleeps with Bilhah, and Reuven's going to pay the price. Yaakov's going to curse him at the end of his life. He talks. He doesn't bless Reuven fully. Doesn't bless all his children at the end of his life. Some of them he gives, we'll say, warnings more than blessings. The firstborn, the Bechorah, is taken away from Reuven, and it's really this aspect of it, him doing this. Now, this is not the only time. We talked about it when we studied Tanakh. For example, when Avshalom rebels against his father David, and David left some of his concubines in the palace, and David has to run away. His son Avshalom has control of Yerushalayim, and what Avshalom does, he goes up to the roof and he sleeps with some of David's concubines on the roof. Presumably somewhat in public, I don't know, fully in public, somewhat in public, but it's a statement, I'm in my father's place. I am in my father's bed. I am sleeping with my father's wives. And that's what Reuven does here. The pause is very interesting, because the pause is, we don't know what happens in the immediacy after this. We don't know Yaakov speaks to Reuven. We don't know if Yaakov ignores it. There are times that we've talked about Yaakov ignoring things, being scared, running away from Lavan. The fear, maybe he's trying, like the Radak said, to run away from Esav and not to confront Esav. So sometimes Yaakov is willing to stand up to people. Sometimes he's not willing to stand up to people. Different situations, different things. We don't know what's said. We have that white pause, and we have to wonder, did Yaakov speak to Reuven? Did Yaakov just try to ignore the whole thing, and later on he cursed Reuven? But what's important is Yaakov asserts that he is still in charge of the family. Right? Vayihlach-Who, what does it say again? This verse afterwards, Vayihlach-Who b'nei Yaakov shnei masar. The children, the sons of Jacob, were still 12. They're 12. Right? And the verses after, the sons of Leah. The oldest son of Yaakov is Reuven. So he's still his child. I'm not banishing him, but he's the child. I'm the parent. I am in charge. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun. Right? And then we have Yosef and Binyamin, who was just born. And this is right also in the aftermath of the death of Rachel. And so here we have a moment where the family could have been torn apart, but they aren't torn apart. They manage to remain together. I want to talk about one other person who comes up later on in the parsha. What we get into is we then have the names of the family of Esav. Esav comes back, they bury Yitzchak together, and then we have somebody who is named as one of the descendants of Esav, who is Timnah. And I just had a problem with my Sefaria. We're mentioning the families of Esav after the death of Yitzchak, and this is coming in the 6th Aliyah, and it tells us about, where did it go to? It tells us about a woman, Timnah. This is from chapter 36, verse 12. Timnah haita pilegesh leEliphaz. One of the children of Esav was Eliphaz, and Eliphaz had a concubine named Timnah. V'teled leEliphaz et Amalek. And Eliphaz and Timnah gave birth to a child who they named Amalek. Eile b'nei Adaish et Esav, and these are all the descendants from Esav, from his wife Adah. It's the end of a list. Obviously, we're very familiar with the name Amalek. And Amalek is this understood as being the enemy of the Jewish people. And all we know is that it is the descendants of Eliphaz and Timnah, and we don't know more than that. But the Gemara tells a story about what happens with Timnah. And what it says is that Timnah wanted to convert to Jewish life. That's what Timnah wanted to do. But the Jewish people, Yaakov, his family, we're not told exactly who it is, they would not accept her. And when they would not accept her, she, who was from a family she was a princess, she was from a very important family, she went and she said, I would rather be a concubine for somebody in this family than be with my own family. And she goes and she marries into the closest thing she can marry to, which is to the family of Esav. She becomes a descendant in the family of Esav, and she becomes a concubine in the family of Esav, and she and her husband have a child named Amalek. And again, this is not in the Torah. This is in the Gemara. The Gemara discusses this. The Midrash discusses it. And it really is stressing the boundary that we place up as Jews. Timnah is understood as being noble. She was sincere. She's spiritually, she's searching. She wasn't immoral. It's not like yesterday where we have this discussion, Yaakov and Esav. Is it wrong for Yaakov to part with Esav? Esav kissed him. Is the kiss sincere? Is it insincere? What is Chazal trying to tell us? Why are there dots over the letters? Why is there the biting? We don't know. Is it better for Yaakov that Yaakov go in separate ways from Esav? He's not at his best when he's at Esav. It's best sometimes for people to separate. The people who drag you down, don't spend all your time with them. But that doesn't seem to be what the rabbis are saying about Timnah. She was not immoral. She was genuinely seeking, but she was rejected by our patriarch. And she may, as a result, or it appears as a result, that she harbored some resentment. She harbored some real anger. So she came to the family, they rejected her, and instead she goes and she joins the family of Esav. And who is the descendant? The descendant is Amalek, the enemy of the Jewish people forever. And it really, it really is a very, very biting and scathing remark. There are lots of questions always in the Jewish world regarding converts. We started out so small, we're not so big. In many ways because of Roman destruction of Jews in the year 70, year 115, year 135. That may be the majority reason why there's still so many Jews, and then many pogroms and destructions afterwards. But we are not a community. The Jewish people don't take in too many converts, and we push them away. And as opposed to, let's say, Islam and Christianity, which certainly don't. And this Gemara is challenging us to not push people away so simply, either because we could use them, and by use them is probably the wrong language. They will enrich our lives and our community, and unfortunately, when you push people away, you can really create enemies. And so the story of Timnah, again, there's really nothing about her in the Torah. There's nothing. She's just a person in the family. But the rabbis in the Midrash creates a whole story about her with a very, very strong lesson about how we need to think about people who want to come, as we say, tachat kanfei Shechina, under the wings of the divine presence, and how we need to be extremely careful and accepting, because if you push people away, it could have much worse consequences than if you let some people